Hi guys, it's Karen Purdy again, and I have another flip through video for you for a number of reasons actually. I noticed that lately I focus so much on the journals that I haven't really showed a lot of the art stuff, and I'm still doing that. I just haven't really gone on video with that because I've been focusing on the journals that I've been making. But talking about the art stuff, and I've had a few people ask me a number of questions that are product specific, and one of them is the Dylusions inks. And I know that I mentioned that you can use them on manila, and that they don't work as well on other types of paper like watercolor or you know, like in regular journals. Like, you do want to get a specific type of paper to use the Dylusion sprays. Now the paints are different, but you know, each medium has its own, I guess you could say, chemistry and the way it reacts to different things. And the Dylusion sprays, I'd really recommend, if you're going to use those in a Dylusions journal. So, you know, you see me use them a lot, and there's a reason that I keep them in the journal. Even with the Dylusions journal, there's still some frustrations that you'll experience that I'm going to show you. I haven't gone through and decorated the cover on this yet. I saved that for last. But you can see it's already got, you know, a lot of color and, you know, splashes. And that's because when you use the Dylusion sprays, they're very messy. You'll notice that I always use a craft mat underneath my surface whenever I'm using them, and you always clean it up, and you know, they're a very messy medium to play with. So expect to make a mess, and expect that you may mess up other pages in your journal. That's all part of the process. The other thing is, again, I absolutely love the look of an almost finished journal like this. Isn't that, it's so full, you know? There are some other Dylusion spray specific tips that I'll go through. As I've mentioned before, when you get a journal, you should open it up to a signature, and, well, to each signature, and remove 2 pages that you pull out and set aside. So I have a number of pages that I've done that, and I'm going to just pull those out so as not to confuse you. So, no, that's taped in. Okay, so this is my journal now, and I still have these extra pages. Now, if you want, when you're working with the sprays or whatever, you can take one of these pages that you pulled out, and you can, you know, put it on your mat, and you can work on just one page instead of having it in your journal. And then, you know, you can cut it up, or you can tape it back in your journal. So that's one of many things you can do. And remember that with the sprays, you will need a second sheet to, you know, blot up the excess. That's another thing. So anyways, that's enough talking about Dylusions for now. I wanted to do a flip through of my Dylusions journal. So I'm going to go back to, this was when I first came up with the idea to create a group. It was the first page I wanted to create in this journal was Mixed Media Art Journey. That was the name I chose, and you know, it's not perfect. I tried lining the edges with this, it's kind of like a lacy washi tape that I got at the dollar store, and you can see it's kind of messy, but you know what? That's fine. It's all part of the process. It doesn't have to be perfect. And okay, so that's glued down. So then I have this page, or this spread, where, you know, a lot of these techniques you may recognize. I did cover them in the background techniques. This is just Dylusion sprays on the background, and I did the grid technique, and then I took this page and I used this to blot, and then that kind of gave me the 2 pages. And then I took several different circle stencils, and I did the layering, and then I went through with some gel pens and I outlined the stencils to make them pop. So it's just, you know, it's a colorful background. It doesn't have, you know, an image or a quote. It's just a background, but I like the way it looks and it makes me happy. I did add a pocket that I made out of an envelope from junk mail. I decorated it, and I stuck a tag in here. And here I took an owl out of an old calendar and I cut that out. I love fussy cutting too, by the way. So I cut that out, and some scraps of scrapbook paper and a quote. And you know, some of these pages are still kind of blank, but they're pretty enough that I don't mind. It's a nice simple, you know, page. And then I have this parody of a woman's magazine. And from the prompts that I have, the first one was to doodle on a napkin. And so I did that, and I included that here. I believe I've completed all of the prompts and included them in this journal on different pages. So here's my doodle on a napkin, and I just used some washi tape right here. So that's taped in over a pretty background, and it's also covering something I started that I didn't really like the way it looked. And this was from a scrap of paper that I added some fussy cut stamps and a quote. And here was another pretty background that I just did a little bit of writing on. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be perfect. Here was a sunflower that I cut out of a big piece of scrapbook paper, and then I colored it in because it was black and white. So I colored it in using, I believe I used the Dylusion or the Distress markers. And so that's how I did that, and I added a quote. And here is another page where I painted the background. I did the brayer with just different metallic craft paints, you know, cheap stuff. And I added some really pretty scrapbook paper that I got at Michael's, and I just loved the paper so much. So I cut that down and I stuck it in, and then I went over with some gel pens, and the Jelly Roll Glaze Black has this really nice shine to it. So that's what I use for the black. And then the Uniball Signo for the white. And I just used it to highlight certain parts on the paper. And I added, you know, some more highlighting up here on the words. And these butterflies are from a paper napkin that I adhered to some cardstock using this trick with saran wrap and an iron. And so, you know, it has some nice dimension to it, and it feels like, you know, like cardstock scrapbook paper. But it's just a paper napkin. So yeah, that's how I did that. And then here, the background was a lot of, you know, just going over with a brayer and adding layering with stencils. And for these, you can see a few of them are imperfect. That's okay. This was the around the time of the election. We had a women's march. I live near Seneca Falls, New York, which has, you know, a big history with women's rights. So there was a women's march that I attended, and I took my boys and we visited the National Women's Hall of Fame the same day. So, you know, I kind of created a page and included a brochure, and the quote says, "I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept." So I thought that kind of fit, and then I had, you know, a crowd of women with their signs. So that's what I did there. This was my attempt at just freehand painting, which, you know, it's a forest, and, you know, a quote that goes with that. Here is just a little insert I made with a false sticker and a little tag, and I kind of added it like a little mini book inside. And this background was created with I believe I took some like the bubble stencil, a full page stencil, and I layered in different colors like an ombre effect, and then I took gray and black and I did a reverse or another ombre effect to outline it. So I created the inside, the little circles first, and added the detail. This took me a few days. I worked on it a little bit here and there. And then when that was done, I wanted to add something more interesting, so I took a scrap page that I'd created and I glued that on top. You have to forgive me, I'm kind of losing my voice right now. So here's just some pretty mandalas that I did through a stencil using different colors. And that's over just a plain gray background. And here is a page that I made in a mixed media art journaling group that I held at the local library. And this is another one where instead of using Dylusions sprays, I used paints, and I did the grid technique, and then I took a brick stencil and I layered through it so it has a nice brick pattern on it and a quote that goes with that. And this was one of my responses to one of the prompts that I have in the Mixed Media Art Journey course on Teachable. There's a prompts course, and this was one of them. And here's just a scrap page that I stuck over another background. And this, I believe, oh, this flips up. It took me a minute. So this flips up. This was another thing from the prompt, and on the cover it says home is a feeling, not a place, and the prompt was dream home. So this was a page that I created, just kind of including different things about what my dream home would have. And so I like how that flips down. And here's just a pretty background with some more extra pages stuck on and a very colorful butterfly. I love how that came out. And some words. And here's just a plain background. I can go through and add stuff if I want, or I can just leave it as is. I do like to play around with just backgrounds, you'll notice that. So, you know, here's just another background where I did a little border. It's kind of unfinished, but again, it's okay to do that. So here I have an envelope with a tag. And it's all over painted backgrounds. I think that's probably 75% of the fun is just playing and making the colorful backgrounds. And here's another envelope with just some little things hidden in there. And some tickets and journaling tag. Another pretty background. This one was another pretty background where I tried making a kind of a plaid design with some glittery washi tape. And I added some fussy cut stamped images and one of my favorite quotes. This background was created just with scraps of scrapbook paper. I just kind of made a collage of them, and then I stamped and doodled and added a quote. And this one was a, I used masks, which is the reverse of a stencil. And so I created a very colorful background, and I laid the masks down, and then I went over them with a darker color, so when I pulled the masks up, you have, you know, the colors underneath are showing through. And then I finished it with some matching cutouts that fit and some quotes. This was one of my favorite pages that I made from the prompts in the course. This was 10 random facts about me combined with secrets. And so it has a lot of envelopes and tuck spots and little things hidden on here. And I'll go through and show just all the little interactive things that I made. Like so. And this is a card that opens. And here's another card that, as you can see, the washi doesn't really want to stay. Because over here I put down some, I think it was drywall tape for texture over the background. So the washi tape isn't sticking as well as I'd like, but, so there's a card. And another card. And so each of these cards has a random fact about me, but they were kind of hidden like secrets, you know, and I had a lot of fun working on this one. So here is my top secret one that I'm not going to show you the inside, but you know, each card matches the envelope. And this one folds out like so. And then it goes back in the tuck spot. There's another envelope here with a matching card. And one more. So yes, this was probably one of my favorite pages to work on. It was so fun. And I mean, that's the thing, is it's personal and it's not, you know, a beautiful canvas to hang on the wall. This is all about the process, you know, so that's why I wanted to show off this journal. Here I printed up a image of a dragonfly and I fussy cut it out and I cut the legs off and adhered those down to the page, which I painted black. And the rest of the dragonfly I had, it's popped up with the little 3D pop dots, I think they're called, the foam squares. So it has some pop to it and I absolutely love how that looks. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but it really pops off. And then a quote to go with the dragonfly. Here was another background with some stenciling and doodling and, you know, just enjoying the process. And this was a page that I created in a workshop with Diane Reevely, where we created 4 little pockets, like so. And I haven't figured out how to use them yet, but I did love it, and I kind of left it as is, just because, you know, I love it just like it is. So you take 2 middle pages and you kind of put them together and you decorate the back page, and then you know, cut these down and tape it down like so, right there, and then you have 4 little pockets that you can stick things in. And you may have seen this one before. This was a lot of fun. I love the way this came out. I have a very colorful background with some stamps and highlighting, and I added a border. And over here, this was an image. It was my attempt, it was, you know, an experiment for me where I had been doing a lot of rock painting, and so I'd been doing a lot of image transfers using Mod Podge, and I attempted that on paper. And you can see a lot of the white from the paper that didn't peel up, but you know, that's okay. It still had the nice colorful background, and I went over and painted over it, and I just love the way that this one came out. This one I'm not so happy with, and I kept it to show you that sometimes they don't come out right. I think you can tell this was inspired by Cheshire Cat, and it includes one of my favorite quotes from him. But, you know, the page itself, visually, I think it kind of looks not the way I'd hoped, but that's okay, because sometimes they don't come out the way you want. It's all about the process. So here is one on, it was my fall themed spread, and it says, "It's the Great Pumpkin Latte, Charlie Brown." You may recognize this from the course on background techniques. I didn't add anything to it yet. I can, but I kind of left it as is. I liked all the colors together, so I think it's fine the way it is. And here's some more examples. This one using masks, same thing where you create a colorful background and then you use the masks, and while they're down you kind of paint around with black, so when you remove the masks you get that pretty color underneath. So that's a fun technique to try, and that's what I did here. And over here, this shows some ghosting. And this is something you can do with the Dylusions inks or the Dylusions sprays, where they react with water and it lifts the color, almost like an eraser. So it's a really fun technique that, as far as I know, you can only do with the Dylusion sprays. And again, it has to be on the right paper for it to work. So, so that's what this technique is. And this is a pocket that you can stick things in. And it says, "Don't quit your daydream." And you may have seen me share this page. This was a mourning page for the tragedy in Las Vegas and for the loss of Tom Petty. And we're getting close to the end here. So here's one background, and you'll see on one of my removed pages, oh, I believe I already used it. Some of these you may see there's matching backgrounds. But what's really cool is I can take one that doesn't match, maybe in contradicting colors, like this. And they just kind of look fun together. So if I wanted to, I could insert this next to this instead of having a 2-page spread that looks like this. And so there are still a few more blank pages for me to fill. I believe you've seen this one. I'm getting there though. There's only probably that many more pages for me to fill. And I did already create my last page just because I knew this wanted to be the quote that goes at the end. And it says, "At any moment you have the power to say, this is not how the story is going to end." I thought that was the perfect way to end this journal. And I'll probably tape this down to the back side, so that's the last thing you see. And then once it's completely finished, I will go through and decorate the cover. One last thing I want to say, if you're working in your art journal and you're just getting started, again, there is no wrong way to do this. You don't have to do it from start to finish. I know that I don't. You'll notice even here towards the end, I have, a blank page here and an unfinished page here, a page here. I jump all over in the book. I open to a page and I work in it. It's okay to do it that way, but it's also okay to do it from start to finish if that's how you want to work. A few of the other things I wanted to show you, I think I did skip one page. One of my favorite pages in here, and it's important that I show you this one. So let me open. Here we go. I did skip this one. This was one of my favorite pages. I loved the quote, and I actually put in some effort, and I was proud of how this girl came out. I, hand drew her and painted her. You don't see me do that a lot because I don't feel that I'm that good at faces, so I tend to rely on stamps and things like that. But this one I did myself, and I was proud of how it came out. And you can see right here, this spread kind of got ruined. And this is from the Dylusion sprays. This does happen when you use Dylusion sprays. It'll happen. You may ruin other pages in your journal. You'll see right down the middle on almost every page, the darker pages, it's not going to stand out so much. But you're going to see a lot of this. And over here, you're going to see a lot of this. And this is the kind of stuff that happens when you use a very messy, wet medium. There are ways to minimize this, but you can't let yourself feel frustrated when this happens. It's okay, just move on. And yeah, so I did want to show you that. And yeah, I hope that this helps, and thank you for watching. Bye. I hope this video inspires you to be creative and have fun. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.